गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णू गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. विघ्नेशानमुनी गुरुसस्मरुनी लक्ष्मीस आवाहिले. आम्ही गुंतवणूकशास्त्र शिकण्या हे सत्र आरंभिले. केव्हा स्थावर आणि जंगम कधी कोठे किती गुंतवू. चर्चा मंथन तज्ञ बोध मिळता हे प्रश्नही सोडवू. ठेवी भाग सुवर्ण पोस्ट अथवा रोखे तसे फंडते. वृद्धी भांडवली मिळो कर नको पर्याय हो कोणते. कोठे उत्तम रोखता सुगमता लाभांश वा व्याजही. कोठे गुंतविणे सुरक्षित असे नोंदीस कैसी वही. सन्मार्गे धनसंपदा मिळविणे अत्यंत आवश्यक. पैसा ध्येय नसे म्हणून जपणे जाणीव सामाजिक. ज्ञानाचा उपयोग गुंतवणुकी साठी सदा होऊ दे. हे सारे समजावया सुमती दे आम्हास तू शारदे.
Good morning, everyone. This is a special day. We are on the last day of the World Investor Week, which gets celebrated in the entire world. And today, incidentally, we have somebody to speak on the market, equities, and to create wealth. That's the everybody's motto. And just to brief you, all of you, this is the third session what we are holding for this month. In the coming months also we'll be holding different sessions on different subjects. One of the things which we initiated from this month was holding this kind of sessions outside Lokmanya Seva Sangha. First of its kind was held in this month, which was held in Vidyalankar College, which was initiative of basically the Templeton Mutual Fund. And almost 110 students took advantage of this session, and the idea was basically to teach them to start investment and savings early. In our times, which we didn't have this kind of investor education kind of initiatives, but we thought it fit that let these students take this initiative. And the students which were selected were basically from the third year onwards. And what we also found that out of these students, at least 10 to 15% students, they already had something like SIP or a demat account. So there was some interest generated in that context. So that was the aim. So in fact, I would like to request to all of you, if you can suggest such kind of activities we can hold outside Lokmanya Seva Sangha. And there are mutual funds who actually seek such kind of audience. In fact, Templeton Mutual Fund were very happy to take this forward in the same college, which again from the academic point of view, which they are looking to have a session in terms of how to have the research report written. So that kind of activity maybe we'll hold after a couple of months. So these are the initiatives what we have taken. I'm not going to take much of your time. So best wishes on this World Investor Day to all of you. And our motive is to create wealth and not to look for short-term gains and that kind of thing. So we never recommend any tips. Limay sir has been telling us right from inception. Dare sir is always sitting here in the first row, so nobody dares to go to that level, and that's what we always maintain, and we have to maintain, no doubt on that. With this, I hand over to Mr. Dhruv Patil for a brief introduction of our speaker today.
Thank you, Udayji. Well, I'm not going to take much time. I'm going to give a very brief introduction of Manoj Sathe. Manoj Sathe has been a regular visiting speaker for PB Bhagath Investment Guidance Cell. Just to state a brief about Manoj, he's a good friend of mine, firstly. We worked together. Well, he was with NSDL and I was with NSC. Manoj Sathe holds a degree in electronics engineering from Mumbai University and has completed leadership training programs at IIM Kolkata and IIM Bangalore. He started his career as an IT professional in 1995 with Digital Equipment Corporation. Subsequently, he moved to NSDL and then he had a very long career with the NSDL, which is one of the leading depository world over. He is currently holding his position as a Excite Technologies Private Limited, a country head, delivery and customer services. He is a mentor. By heart and his profession, he likes to share his knowledge that he has earned all these years, and his mission has been to educate as many as investors as possible in financial products. He has been helping students to gain knowledge about how to go about investing. With that brief introduction, I will invite Manoj to take the stage. Before we start the session, I'll request Sujit to hand over a memento. Sujit. Okay, Udayji will hand over the memento. Thank you. Over to you, Manoj.
Good morning, everyone. It feels so nice to come and speak again to all of you. During the COVID period, we couldn't meet. PB Bhagwat is something investment guidance cell has been doing a lot of good work for the society and investors particularly. And Dere sir has been inviting me always when I was with NSDL. As Dhruv said, I always like to come and speak and share my knowledge with the people who are really interested in it. So when I used this particular thing, if you have heard my introduction, I am engineer by education, and I have come here and I have learnt the nuances of finance when I was the head of investor education with NSDL. Now this is all because of maybe by destiny, or maybe because that is something that God wanted me to do. I always say like that. Because in spite of being an electronics engineer and working with NSDL for about 22 years, prior to that when I became vice president in 2010, that was the time when I was heading the IT division. And it just happened that SEBI made it mandatory that depository and other businesses have to separate out. And that is where NSDL e-governance, which is where the NPS and other things are there, that became a separate company altogether, and the investor education portfolio was not, that remained empty, because the person who was heading investor education portfolio was Chandrasekhar Tilak, and I'm sure you all know, many of you have heard him. So when he went to the other area, that other company, that portfolio which he was holding as vice president, that became empty, and no other person in the organization was ready to take over that thing. So they said, okay, let Manoj handle, he likes to talk, baat karta hai, de diya. And when it came to me, I actually started knowing about the problems that the investors have. And lots of feedback started coming in. It was, I think, 2014 or so, when I actually started going and meeting investors. And many problems investors face, and still they are not very clear about many things about equity investments. They do invest in equity indirectly by way of mutual funds. But mutual fund investments, it is an indirect way of earning from equity, but equity is equity. So finally, somebody who invests directly into equity, in my opinion, is the king. Okay? So then the next part is, I started educating people as to how do you start first. See, it's like, you want to play cricket. So the first thing is everybody watches Virat Kohli, everybody watches Sachin Tendulkar, everybody wants to become a cricketer. But then how to become a cricketer? So the first thing is the bat, ball, stumps, stance, how to hold the bat, right? So from that part itself. So first you need the tools to actually start playing cricket. So that is what I did from 2014 to 2020 when I left the area of investor education and I decided that I will start something on my own. And that is where you can see the founder of Arthanyasa Training came in. Because I realized in spite of being within the organization, it is not very simple to speak to the investors and pour your heart out in front of them. You still have to control yourself. Because there is something called as the organization which is saying, no, ye nahi bolna hai aapko. Promote this, promote that. So that is very difficult. So if you really want to be transparent, then you cannot be within the boundaries, right? So that is where I decided, let me come out and let me start something of my own. So that is where I started the Arthanyasa Training and Consultancy, which is into investor education area itself. So then what happens, as I said, the first 6 years, I made sure that people understand the bat and ball and how to play. That means why a demat account is required, why you should open a demat account, what are the pros and cons, what is a BHD account, how you can be opening a BHD account, starting your investment, and then shifting gears and going to the normal demat. So all such things I did from 2014 to 2020. What is the importance of nomination? What is transposition come demat? How do you transfer the shares? What happens in case if one of the holders is not there? So there are many problems which the investor had or questions which they had. And I did the work of reaching out to the investors. If you see the work done by all the intermediaries, NSE, BSE, NHDL, CDSL, other market players like mutual funds, you can see the results now. From a base of about 1 crore investors, today both the depositories together have about 10 crore demat accounts. And that is something what is the, I would say, the outcome of all the efforts put in by all the intermediaries in association with social organizations like the PV Bhagwat. So there are many people who contribute to this entire movement. And that is where the nation is shifting gears and changing from the bank accounts to the demat accounts. Still, there is a long way to go. And when now many of us have reached that stage of being ready with the demat accounts, now comes the next stage of investing. When you invest, it is important that you invest in the right companies, with the right attitude, with the right knowledge. Now, as I said, even I am a learner like you, I am also a student like you. And whatever knowledge I have gained in the last 8-9 years of investing, like I have also become an investor in equity from about 2012 onwards. And from then on, believe me, I have learned so many small things. One of the things which is very, very important is the part of the jargonization. Now people will say, what is jargonization? Jargonization means making simple things complex. Simple, very simple. Very simple things are there, but you make it complex because that is how you value yourself, right? Only I know these jargons. Like eagle speak. You will find words like this, eagle speak. Then the book value, or there are many terms. If you just talk to a chartered accountant, he will make sure, or MBA finance guy, he will make sure that you are confused so much that you will go to him, please give me your consultancy. Okay, now abhi aaya, ut pahad ke niche. So that is how the attitude. So then I realized one thing, that if this is the case, let me do the work of an antagonist to this. Let me make the complex world simple. Because in spite of being an electronics engineer who doesn't have a knowledge of economy, doesn't have knowledge of finance, to that extent which people have learned, I realized that it's very simple. It's like, at the same time, I agree to this fact that it is, for example, I always feel that doctors make life difficult and they jargonize things for you. Doctors. But the first thing, if you talk to the core of the doctor, they will say when a patient walks in, they understand what is the severity or criticality of that disease. Because from your walk, from your eyes, from your tongue, thus the body speaks for itself. But then they make it, ठीक है, आपको लेकिन 2-3 टेस्ट करना पड़ेगा. Then you realize कि what is the cut that will be coming from this place to that place. Okay, so I'm not against anything. What I'm against is you need the doctors or anyone for that reason should make life simple for you and not complex. There are many honest doctors. Let me tell you that. The doctors which I go to, they are so simple that they go to the extent of telling that if you do it from this particular lab, go and tell my name so that you will get 20% discount. I'm sure you are getting like what I'm trying to tell you. You will get 20% discount, tell my name. That doctor is honest. Let me tell you that. Because he or she is not taking any commission from that lab. Other people are taking 20% commission. That's the message which is there. So the point is, if you have decided to be an equity investor, you need to make sure that the investments that you are doing over there, it can be through your advisor, it can be through your consultant, it can be through your friend's advice, anything. But whatever is being put in that particular asset class there, in your demat account, has to be something which you are well aware of. Okay? It never happens that you go to buy a car and you buy a car which the fellow recommends to you, right? You always are very careful because you know that you are putting your money in that particular car and that car will be used by you for various activities. And then you will say many things. First you will go to the company of your choice. Okay? Then you will find out the car which is there in your budget. Then you will go to that where if it is automatic transmission or manual transmission. Once you go to the automatic transmission, you will say, I would like to buy the car only after a test drive. Then you will say, which are the finance options available? Then you will say, what are the free gifts that you are giving? Then you will compare across many such dealers who is giving the maximum discount. After all these things, after all this research, you will put your money into that car, and that car is still not an investment for you. But still you are putting so much of efforts in analyzing that car, but when something which is an investment for you, I'm not sure whether we all are really putting that much of effort in analyzing what is going inside your demat account. So what I did is I requested Dhruv that I would like to talk to the investors with an idea of fundamental analysis. And without even saying a single word, he said, yes, done. You can speak. Because this is something which I feel is an important part of knowledge that you all should have. It is an excellent tool to really guide you and tell you whether you are moving in the right direction or not. But then again, it's an important thing for all of you to know how to use it, but at the same time, what all precautions one should take. And again, I am saying, if during my entire session, if you hear some stocks, they will come as a part of the speech, and they are not being recommendations or anything. I am just saying something which will come as a part of the flow. Second is, I am not at all claiming that I am somebody who knows everything in and out 100%. No. As I said, I am also a learner, and we are all here to share thoughts. Only thing is, Dhruv gave me the opportunity to stand here. You people are sitting there. That's the only difference. Okay. So how do we really go about? Because this topic of fundamental analysis is something which some of you may know. Some of you may already be practicing. And some of you may have some knowledge. Some of you may have zero knowledge. Some of you may be using technical analysis. Those who are short-term traders. But then how do we go about going about this particular flow? So the first thing I wanted to share with you was origin of equity investing. because it's important to know how the equity investing has really started. Okay, so when I started studying, the first known thing is Amsterdam Stock Exchange, which it is started about 450 years back, and that is where East India Company, the only stock that was traded at that point of time was East India Company. And why it was traded is because it was for people who wanted to do expeditions to the Asian area. They wanted to have money and all. So that is where this particular part, they started selling the shares of East India Company. You know the East India Company, right? They came and they were the first, they brought the first Britishers to India and all. So that company was the first one traded on Amsterdam Stock Exchange. Then came the New York Stock Exchange, which was in 1792. Then came the London Stock Exchange, which is in 1801. And then there are 60 stock exchanges all over the world. The world has nearly 200 plus countries, but only 60 countries have stock exchanges there. These are important numbers. You may be feeling that why is this man giving me the statistics? I want you to know that the world is still only 1/3 covered in terms of the equity market knowledge. There are no stock exchanges in almost 140 plus countries. It means that either they do not have a systematic way of equity or they do not have equity culture at all. It means so many people are still out there who can still become a part of this entire process. Some numbers ahead will give you the idea about how deep it is and how vast it is. It is very big in terms of this thing. There are 16 stock exchanges which have got a market capitalization. I'm sure you all know what is market capitalization, right? The total number of shares which are there in the market which are being traded on any market, and multiply that by the value of that each share. For example, if there are 100 shares being traded and the value is 10 rupees, the market capitalization will be 100 into 10. If there are 100 into 10 is market capitalization of one stock, and like that 10 stocks are there, you add everything, that will become the market capitalization of the entire stock exchange. There are 16 stock exchanges out of the 60 stock exchanges where the market capitalization is over $1 trillion US. And in context of rupees, if you really want to imagine, it is 82 lakh crore. 82 lakh crore worth of securities are being traded on 16 stock exchanges. The minimum, I am saying the 10th one is, the 16th one will have 82 lakh crore. So if you add the top 10 exchanges ka market capitalization, it will go out to 80 trillion US. 80 trillion US is, sorry, 7 trillion, not USD, 7 trillion rupees. Okay, no, sorry. Out of the 80 trillion, if you add NSE, BSE, it is 7 trillion US. India is contributing to about 10% of the world's market capitalization. So we have a long way to go. That is second message which is coming out of from this. And believe me, this is part of the fundamental analysis. You need to imagine where the world is heading and what is my contribution to the entire thing. Imagine there is a small house, and in that house, 3 generations are staying. Grandparents, parents, and 2 kids. Now, when the kid observes the grandparents, he sees that the grandparents have become old, but they are still doing work. And there is a lot of work that the grandparents used to do, which my parents are doing now. And as the child grows, he says that I would be now taking more responsibility that my parents are doing, because they are going into the generation of grandparents. So this time is telling the child that I will now be taking over as the parent of the house, and the parent will be going to the grandparent. What I mean to say by this is, in the context of our session, US, which is 60% of this value, is the grandparent. UK, they are again a part of the grandparent. China and Japan, they are the parents. 1, 2, 3 grandparents, 4, 5, 6 parents, 7, 8, 9 children. Who are 7, 8, 9? India and other. So we are going to take more and more load, responsibility, more and more contribution from our side will be happening to the equity market. Means our equity market is poised to grow. That's for certain. It is very certain. There is no need of doing any fundamental analysis, no need of asking any foreteller. Nobody is required. It is very simple calculation. Now, if you come to India, Bombay Stock Exchange started in 1875, again very old, and today they are holding 8th largest and 9th largest in terms of the market cap. Moving on, the next part which is there is what started as one equity, which is East India in Amsterdam, has now become 150. Okay, after so many years. There are 150 companies which are traded on the Amsterdam Stock Exchange. All over the world, across all exchanges, 52,000 plus companies are listed and traded. Whereas in India, you can see only 1,641 are listed on the NSE. What it means is, who will go and list on the stock exchange? Somebody who needs capital. There are 52,000 companies in the world who have sought capital from their respective stock exchanges. Again, even our people have listed our stocks on the United States Stock Exchange, right? You all would have heard about these things, depository receipts. Infosys, Wipro, all these stocks are listed also on the stock exchanges of the world. That means the boundaries are now becoming thin. Means people are investing across each other. Today I am investing in the US stock market. I don't know how many of you are investing like that, but I am putting my money into stocks which are there traded on the US. And I feel so nice that I am holding one Apple share with me, because that is what I can afford. But still I have the ability that I can invest. I have that particular boundary is now gone. So the boundaries are becoming more and more thin. As internet is growing, connectivity is growing, and that is where interconnectivity also is growing. And only 1,641 companies have asked for capital from the Indian stock market. So look at the amount of potential which is there in terms of the companies or businesses which start. Because two things are happening in India. One, there is a lot of young generation. Now when they don't get a job, that is where they will start looking out for starting some business. In the last few years, you would have seen that the Byju's, the Zomatos, the Swiggy's, the Paytms, whether the valuation is right or not, or all these things, that's a different thing that we will discuss ahead. But these companies have come there and they are rubbing shoulders against the likes of Infosys, Wipro, Reliance. But when this is happening, the other companies which are there on the top, they are also growing. If you just look at the amount of money that Reliance is making, the profit of Reliance is more than the GDP of nearly 50 nations in the world. Mind-boggling numbers this is. A complete nation can be bought by Reliance just like that, only by using the profit. They are still doing business. They are still selling petroleum to all of us. That's the power of Reliance. And when this is happening, the magic of Byju's also is working. The magic of Paytm also is working. Valuation is a different thing that we will discuss when we go ahead. But definitely there is a scope for new companies to come in. It means that when new companies come in, for us which are sitting here, that is an beautiful, interesting investing option for us. There is a possibility that we can now invest in companies which are coming up with the IPOs. But for that, we need to really know and apply our own brain whether this is worth investing or not. Recent example of Paytm, you would have seen, if you had read the red herring prospectus which comes as a part of the IPO, anybody can easily tell this company, how can they value themselves so high? It's not possible. If you simply compare their numbers with the other of their peers, what you call, the people who are in the same, the companies which are there in the same category, you will realize that they were valued much, much higher. And the market corrects itself. The day they listed, dhadam karke that stock came down. But people who were just eager, Paytm, Vijay Shekhar Sharma, I should invest, they lost their money, right? So it's very, very important that you need to first understand the numbers. Just by telling someone that I am like this, I will be able to do this. No, but really is it worth or not? Just don't go by that. I like that ad of, I think Mirinda or something. Dikhawe pe mat jao, apni akal lagao. That's a perfect thing that is applicable to equity markets. And the smallest exchange, just for your knowledge, is Cambodian Stock Exchange with only 2 companies that are traded in today's world. Now, we come to the main part of the session, which is how do you really analyze? What are the various ways in which you can analyze stocks? There are 2 parts of or mechanisms that are used in the world. One is called technical analysis and the second is called fundamental analysis. Now, when you say technical, in Marathi it is very clear, Tantrik, it is very technical in nature. Means it simply goes by the numbers. If you try to find a similar kind of thing, in medical parlance, technical analysis means the reports. When you go to a doctor, they will say, "June report आणलेत का तुम्ही? नाही आणलेत तर तुम्ही या report करून घ्या." And then they will look at the parameters. Okay, CBC. Okay, ठीक है. SGPT, creatinine. Now, if I ask you, you will know all these jargons, right? When you say SGPT, what is the problem? Does anyone know SGPT? Perfect. Creatinine? Perfect. That is what boss thought. That is what it is all about. That is technical analysis. You look at the numbers and you try to guess something. If these numbers are found to be high, then they will say either you have some kidney issue, then they will go to the next level. क्या हुआ था? Do you have a kidney stone? Do you just take X-ray? Now the X-ray is fundamental analysis ka report. But the numbers will tell them where exactly is the problem lying. And then they will start treating you with that particular thing. So in technical analysis, what is done is the heuristical or the historical prices are taken and then the charts are plotted. And basis that, there are different types of technical analysis graphs which have come over a period of time. Like there is something called as 50 days daily moving average. Then there is something called 200 days daily moving average. Then there is called candlestick analysis. So basically what in candlesticks, there are 4 types of prices which you can plot in a day. Yesterday's close, today's open, today's high and today's low. And these 4 points are plotted and then the graph is plotted which tells you about what will be the future trend of this particular equity or the market as a whole. Like that, in daily moving average also will tell you the same thing. And it is very simple. For example, suppose you start walking, okay? And in the walking, you keep on plotting how much you have walked. And in the last 50 days, regularly, I can see that every day you are walking either more or a little faster. What does that mean? Next day, what is going to happen? Perfect, as simple as that. So daily moving average will tell you. But if I find that in between 2-3 days you are going down, again coming up, going down, again coming up, it means the probability of next day can be that you will be sleeping in your bed. That is exactly what 20 days or 50 days daily moving average is. Now when you compare 50 days against 200 days, you will realize how consistent the person is. Now in the 200 days, if you find that in 200 days the pattern is good, 50 days there is a problem in his walk, that means you immediately will see, ऐसा क्यों हो गया है? Because there was rain, maybe in the last few days. That's why he has missed out on those things. So 50 days average has come down, but 200 days average is good. it means that there is some, so then you have to apply additional information over there, and then you come to the analysis that now rains are not there, so probability that 200 days moving average will be applicable, and this man will walk more and more in the coming days. That means ye stock upar jayega. So this is where the technical analysis comes into picture. Short-term traders always use technical analysis, and this is not something that I would recommend. I use this for my own analysis, but I don't recommend this. As I said, it is a method of forecasting using heuristical data, historical data. And as I said, you use technical charts, technical indicators, oscillators. These are, I don't want to go into the details again. These are all methods which are there. So how to do it? All these are technical details of that graph. Nowadays, you don't have to really plot all those things. You know, I'm an astrologer myself. So when I learnt astrology, how to draw a chart in 1996, we were taught how to come to some value. That means when you were born, on that day at 5:30 in the morning, what is the position of the planet, and from that point onwards, which is given in the Panchang or Almanac, and from that point, suppose you are born at 1:30 in the afternoon, 5:30 के सुबह के सोलापुर के ग्रह दिए रहते हैं, and then you have to calculate at 1:30 what is the position of that planet, and then plot it in the Kundali. That is how a Kundali is made. Now that is not required in 2022 because computer calculates everything. It is a standard. ऐसा कभी होता नहीं है कि Saturn says that नहीं इस बार मैं थोड़ा fast जाऊंगा. It will go at its own pace only. They are not like us कि आज थोड़ा कम खाया ज़्यादा खाया. They are not like us. They are same. हम लोग बदलते हैं. The point is, technology has given you the ability now as a astrologer to really look into the part of forecasting. So I look at, मुझे अभी कुंडली बनाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, वो ready बन के आती है. I have to just read it. Likewise, there are many softwares available which will give you the technical analysis ready-made. You have to be ready to read it and guess what is the next movement going to be. So that's about the technical analysis. Now we come to the main part of today's session, which is fundamental analysis. Now fundamental analysis is all about ratios. There are different types of ratios which we will discuss later in the presentation. But these ratios will actually help you in making informed decisions. Somebody who would have read the ratios of Paytm would have easily come to the conclusion that this is not a stock which is worth investing. And I don't know how many of you bought that stock, but I did not invest. No, it's absolutely fine, sir. Unless there are people who are buying, money doesn't move from one pocket to other pocket. यहाँ से वहाँ जा नहीं सकते. But for that you need to do the analysis. वो ठीक है. That is equity market all about. People are investing, thoughts are there, minds are there, demand supply is there. That's how it works. It's very simple and very interesting also. Then it helps in future forecasting. You can analyze financial statements. Lots of information is being given by every company. It is mandatory. Questions are asked. सेबी क्या कर रहा है? I will tell you सेबी क्या कर रहा है. सेबी ये कर रहा है, स्टॉक एक्सचेंजेस ये कर रहा है, डिपॉजिटर ये कर रहा है. They are asking every company, you please publish quarterly statements, half yearly statements. If you do not do that, I will keep following up with you. If you do not respond to my queries in over 2 quarters, we will delist you. That is what stock exchange and depository and SEBI is doing. When we are saying कि SEBI क्या कर रहा है, when you see, again, if I talk about any political things, I don't have any political inclinations. I am just commenting on the existing environment, and these are my own comments. Please do not get offended by anything. So if you have heard the Lokmat का नाना पाटेकर ने लिया हुआ interview, you will realize that he was an interviewer and he was talking 70% of the time. And he was asking tough questions to them. And as if the responsibility lies only on the minister and deputy chief minister and deputy chief minister. It doesn't. we will also have to contribute our own way, which we are doing. I am not saying no. We have to put pressure onto them. But nobody gives the authority to somebody like Nana Patekar to ask questions to that extent in so detail. Allow them to speak. You should speak one question, they should give 5 answers. That is how the interview should be. He was asking 5 questions and forcing them to give one answer to their nod. That is not, it was simply like that's what I felt, that it was simply like he was trying to be over smart and show that how good he is and what his thoughts are. Coming back to our topic, there are many things which SEBI is doing, which NSE is doing, which NSDL, CDSL, BSE is doing. And we as investors have to do our bit by reading those. How many of you read the annual reports? Tell me honestly, annual reports of the companies that you have invested in? Only 1, 2, 3. And how many of you invest in companies? That is how it is. Even I do the same thing. And I am not ashamed in telling. But my portfolios will definitely be ashamed of telling me after some years. क्या मनोज, तुमने मेरे पास देखा ही नहीं. We bet. There are stocks that I have in my own portfolio which have gone to, they are not available. Some of them are delisted. Nothing can be done. Marathi madhe there is something called Akkal Khati Jama. So I have put it Akkal Khati. But that Akkal, I will not repeat that mistake. That is something which is sure. If I do that again, then I am not an able and intelligent investor at all. Benjamin Graham, he wrote a book. And that is the person who started the fundamental analysis in the world of equities. I don't know how many of you read the book by Benjamin Graham. It's a fantastic book. And I'm sure you all should buy it. My recommendation is that you should buy that book. It's a very big book. College में गया हुआ feeling आएगा आपको. But still, it is worth reading. Because it gives a lot of basic information about how to invest in equity market. And believe me, you all can become Warren Buffetts of tomorrow. I am telling you honestly, I have taken many sessions like this. And now after about 8 years of talking in various seminars, people do come and tell me, I had been to one seminar in, I think, Ghatkopar somewhere, and one lady came to me. She said, "Sir, मुझे पहचाना क्या आपने?" I said, "नहीं, madam. I am a lecturer in Junjunwala College and I attended your session in Junjunwala College." And from that point onwards, I have started investing with the guidance that you have told. And I am very happy to say that today my portfolio is worth 15 lakh rupees. And I have invested 6 lakh rupees. And she was still attending because she felt that अभी भी इस बंदे से कुछ information मुझे मिल सकता है which will help me in going from 15 lakh to maybe 30 lakh in years to come. So it's not about me, it's not about you, it's about us. We have to share thoughts, we have to share knowledge, we have to make sure that एकमेका सहाय्य करू, अवघे बनू, श्रीमंत is something that's the key here. So when you do fundamental analysis, these are the things which happen as part of the fundamental analysis that you're doing. Now, naturally, the thought that will be coming to your mind is, how do you do it? Right? That's the next thing. ये सब ठीक है, अच्छा लगता है, आप बात कर रहे हो, अच्छा लगता है सुनने को. कैसे करने का बताओ? Because that is why all of you are here. You are not here because you like to see the face of Manoj Sathe, right? Or you like to hear, अच्छा लगता है उसका आवाज सुन के, शंकराचार्य जैसा, वाह एकदम. ऐसा नहीं है. You want to know this. How do I really take things from here? How do I apply it? And how do I make sure that my portfolio is either up to the mark or I can make it better? So it's a very simple approach, what I call as the ice, if you really want to remember. Ice मतलब क्या? बर्फ. बर्फ मतलब ठंडा, दिमाग को ठंडा रखने का. Not in that order. ICE, industry, company, economy. But first you have to see economy, then you have to see industry, and then you have to see the company. If you take this approach, believe me, you will never go wrong. Now when I say economy, why economy? Because there is a very clear and definite relation between interest rates, GDP, GNP, and market. I don't know how many of you track, or if you have just seen the price movement of gold versus equity. How does it work? Can you share? Now the next question is, when the gold goes up, equity goes down. Why? This is the question. Very simple. Similarly, interest also, rates. Why RBI really interjects and changes the interest rate? It is very simple. Because when the inflation it goes up. Why it goes up? Because people have money with them and they are ready to pay more for the same commodity. Now it's time to suck the money out. How do they suck the money out? By making the money costly for the banks and for the investors. Moment they raise the interest rates, the greed inside us all is there. Immediately you will rush. I'm sure you would have all received SMSs in your phone saying that the interest rates are now going up 7.5%. HDFC का कितने लोगों को आया? I'm sure all of you, right? 7.5 बोलेगा तो आप immediately उसमें invest करोगे? 7.5 हो गया, because last year तक it was 6.5. 1% ज़्यादा. Immediately आपका दिमाग चालू हो जाता है. कहाँ से लाने का पैसा? ऐसे भी इक्विटी मार्केट ठंडा है. Let me take out that money, put it in HDFC. So this is how people keep moving, right, between the two. So, and this is very much known to RBI and people like them. So they play with these various rates and they make sure that whenever they want to loosen the purse, it's like, a mother or a father giving pocket money to the son. The moment you start realizing that ये बहुत ज़्यादा पैसा मांग रहा है, the first thing that you do, पैसे मिलना नाहित. That is what RBI is telling every banks, पैसे मिलना नाहित. And if he's not doing anything, he's just sitting inside the house, you will go there and give money to them. Go, मजा करून ये जा, तुझे मित्रांबरोबर गेला नाहीस तू. That is what RBI does. Go, buy things, because that what gives boost to the markets, economy. So this is exactly how the economy directly impacts. Nowadays, you would have seen that the talks which are going on around is recession is going to hit the world. I don't know how many of you have watched the new series. Thailand Cave Rescue. How many of you watched that? It's a wonderful thing. Beautifully made. Now, if madam, you would have seen that, there is one shot in which the people who are working outside, they are able to reach the boys who are stuck inside the caves after about 12 days. And when they go there, they have carried with them the food for them. And one of the boys says that, I'm hungry, give me food. And the doctor who is supplying the food, he says that, we have food with us, but your stomach will not be able to digest if I give you more, and you will become sick. This is exactly what happens to the economy also. For nearly 2 years, COVID was there. The economy was at standstill. Nothing was happening. So it is not ready to digest the influx that will come ahead. And that is precisely why this action is being taken. If suddenly the economy starts booming, the inflation will be hitting so high that it will hit the pockets of the people. And for you and me, it doesn't matter. But there are 79% of the people out there who are hungry. They do not have any money. And that imbalance in the society will come to effect in some other way, because people who are not getting food, they will snatch food away from you. Because like Balasaheb Thackeray used to say, पोटाला जात नसते. When somebody is hungry, they will not see मैं कौन से caste का, कौन से religion का, कुछ नहीं. And these are things which will start happening, and that's the reason it is important that to keep inflation in control. That is where all the regulators in the world are doing their work, and they are trying to increase the rates. They are trying to curb the inflation, and it is going to remain there like this for about 6 months to 1 year from now. So the time is only to watch from the sidelines. If you ask me, this is my opinion again. Your opinion can be completely different. Investment per se can continue, But you have to be very careful from this point onwards, because markets can be really bad for the next 6 months or 1 year. Now, another thing which economy can do is the size, the leadership, the dominance. Like when there is a government which is like China, you see China news doesn't come out, but those who are watching WION, you will understand that there is a lot of things that are happening against Xi Jinping, right? Jinping. So because he couldn't control the economy in the last 2 years. And as a result, the people who are in opposition, they are trying to take the dominance. And then there are lots of news happening around there. Russia, Ukraine, there is fight going on. So world is currently unstable. They don't know where things are heading, how things will go ahead. But in all these things, we have a very strong kind of positive things in our country. Because one, our nation is extremely young. So we are going to be innovative, we are going to be active, we are going to be ready to take on the impact of because youngsters can stay without food for a longer time, right? So even if the money doesn't be there, they can still continue to work. Other nations, they do not have, the economy doesn't have anybody to work. Japanese people are today struggling. Europe is struggling, Canada is struggling. The average age has gone against them. So they need people, young people, and we have young people. So our people will go from here to all these countries and they will bring back, repatriate the money. That is beneficial for us. So believe me, our nation is going to be the leader in the next 10 years. It has to. You don't need to be an analyst or, again, an astrologer to predict all these things. This is common sense, very common. It is easily known to anyone. But these are something which we have to see. As I said, financial statements you should be able to read. Balance sheets, income statements, cash flows, extremely important. And you should be able to read between the lines. Because the person who is making the balance sheet is definitely a chartered accountant or somebody who is much good at numbers than all of us, right? So we have to apply our brain and see what is being shown there. Like for example, sometimes you will find that there is a sudden increase in the quarterly profits or an yearly profit, sudden increase, and then you say, this is a wonderful company, I must invest. But then there is a star, and if you go there, you will find that they would have sold some land and suddenly their profits have gone up. If you just look at these numbers, it's important that how do they manage these numbers. It's important what kind of person he is. Like I always say in all my things that wah, right? So it is vatsva, vadva, vapra, and the last va is vata. Whether they are vatting. Whether that company, whatever profits they are making, are they ready to really share it with everyone in terms of dividend? Or they are keeping it with themselves? If they are keeping it with themselves, why they are keeping it with themselves? What is the R&D? Because even if you are holding one share, you still have the authority and the right to ask these kind of questions to the balance sheet and to them. And to vote against certain things which are called resolutions. I don't know how many of you really participate in these kind of things. So that's about the economy, how the economy impacts. We must be aware of the economy. We must read Economic Times every day. You must read money control articles. You must read views of experts. PV Bhagwat cell itself has got stalwarts which are here, like Derecher is there, Uday is there, Sujit is there, Dhruva is there, many people are there. So these are all experts and they have their own views. Yesterday only I think Uday was there on Sahyadri, right? So his views you all can hear. It is readily available with you. घरात आहे पण काखेत कळसा गावाला वळसा. He is the one who speaks. He knows lot of things. And people are saying क्या होने वाला क्या होने वाला. He is there. You ask him. He is there sitting at the door itself. Ask him many questions and he will give his knowledge. These people are extremely down to earth people. They will never show any attitude anytime. They will tell their views to you. Derek sir, you can have counter views. It's not always necessary that you should always hear something that you would like to hear. How many of you go to the doctor to hear from him that You are fit and fine. क्या अच्छे दिखते हो, कोई problem नहीं है. Nobody, right? You go to the doctor and you ask the question, मुझे क्या हुआ है बताओ, I am not feeling well. Then he checks you and then say, हाँ ये ऐसा हुआ है. Sometimes the doctor may be honest to say, कुछ नहीं हुआ है आपको, खाली आपका mind jittery हो गया है, because market नीचे गया है. It's possible, right? But you need the doctor to tell like that. And we have doctors here who can tell you these things, who can show you the mirrors, who can give you the guidance. Use those. So, coming back to our session again, fundamental analysis is used to determine the business health of the company. Whether the company is really doing well, how good the company is. There are many cases. See, there are some slides ahead where I will talk about these things. Many times it happens that the bosses rule. It means what? Who are the bosses in the investment market? The big companies which invest in big numbers, crores of rupees, right? They are the bosses. And those bosses rule. They will hire research analysts and they will say, ITC को ऊपर लेके जाना ही. I'm just giving, again, these are not something, I'm just giving some names. Please do not take it कि otherwise you will say कि अरे ये आके ऐसा बोलता है. They will give some names and these are called, they will say, ये hot sector है. I know that. My friend in US has told me this is a hot sector. Do research on this. And the research analyst who works for them will do research in that area. Come up with positive factors. Like when you go to a doctor, he will say that you are not well. But if you go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, he will say, he will treat your mind in positive ways. He will tell you which positives you have. And a doctor will tell what negatives you have, right? पेट ठीक नहीं है, ये ठीक नहीं है, वो ठीक नहीं है. But the moment you are feeling depressed, you go to a psychiatrist, he will show you the positive side. So these people pay some research analyst and they say that do research about this hot sector. पैसा बोलता है, he does the research of that hot sector, come up with some ideas, and then people start investing, that research report goes out. But then other sectors which may do well, they are not seen. Other views which may be contrarian, they are not heard. And that is where we have to be very, very, very cautious, very, very objective in listening to all these things. I am not saying you should not read. You should read these things. You should understand hot sectors. But does not mean that you should invest in hot sectors. For example, if the rupee is going down every day and it has reached, I think, the lowest in terms of the 82 or something, you have to understand who is going to gain from this. Natural things which come to the mind is IT is going to gain from this. But the important part is you must know, which never comes out, what is the contract that they have with those companies. Because now the world has become intelligent. They are not as simple as that कि conversion में rupees में pay करेंगे. They say that we will pay you in dollars. You give service to be paid in dollars. Now those dollars are controlled in such a way that it is linked to the market fluctuations. Because the people who are doing those contracts also have become intelligent. So you must know whether how much money is coming for this IT company from abroad and what kind of contracts are done there. And that there is no way to know these things. So to know these things, you will have to use your own tikadam knowledge to really find out whether they are really worth or not. For example, Wipro. And those can be seen through the numbers which they are coming up with every quarter. Those can be seen by the people they are recruiting. Those can be seen by the actions which they are taking. Moonlighting. Have you heard moonlighting? That's a very common term nowadays, which is heard. Everybody is covering moon. Hot topic. What is moonlighting? Whether it is right or not, 69% of the people, survey says moonlighting is not right. 31% people are still there who feel that it is right. I work in an IT company and I keep taking interviews of people. People are not joining anywhere. They are saying, you give me 14 lakh rupees and I will work from home. We made it mandatory some time back that everybody will have to work from office. We were threatened, honestly we were threatened that we will not come to office. And we will leave. If you are forcing us, we will send our resignation, we will find another job. And then we have to go with hybrid model For some, the hybrid is flexible to the extent of all days they are working from home. That is the reality of life. So the IT sector is doing well, but remember one thing, they are demanding extreme amounts of money. It means that there will be an impact on the employee cost, which is going to take the money away from their profits. These are points that we have to calculate, we have to take into consideration. This is something, impact of moonlighting on the balance sheet, how it is going to affect. Whereas somebody who is allowing moonlighting can be benefited because the person will not demand money. He will say, मुझे दो तरफ से पैसा मिल रहा है ना. So either I demand 6 lakh rupees from this organization, or I make 8 lakh rupees by working 4 lakh rupees for two organizations. But for this company, the outgo is reduced by 2 lakhs. Because the company says that I will allow moonlighting, I will reduce your salary. He will say, still okay, no problem, win-win. So whether moonlighting is good or bad, we have to think. These are extremely important views, points that we have to think on this. And IT sector, yes, it is going to do well. How much ready you are with the power of the knowledge which is there. Infosys is coming up with buyback. How much money on the table? 1850, 1950, right? 1850. What is the current price? 1400, 1500, 350 rupees on the table. How many of you are ready to take it? That's experience, sir. That's what matters. 350 rupees. Nobody is looking at these things. But the downside is, they may not take all the shares and you may be one of them jiska share nahi liya jayega. But still, it's a good bet because you are investing in Infosys. If you are marrying some beautiful, say Aishwarya Rai, Abhishek Bachchan would have imagined, बच्चा हुआ तो ठीक है, अच्छा ही होगा दिखने में, नहीं भी हुआ तो शादी किसके साथ किया है? ऐश्वर्या से. That is what it is. So it is all about Infosys which should be there, right? So there are two types of analysis that one does. Now the best part of fundamental analysis is finding the fair market value. Now believe me, this word itself, any word which is subjective in nature has to be looked at with a lens. What is fair market value? For you, something which is fair, I will say that is not fair. But still, with numbers, you can still be able to come to some kind of value which will be. So analysts will always say, we feel that the fair value of this company will be between this and this. Like in case of Paytm, all analysts after analysis were saying that the value can be anywhere between 700 to 900 rupees. But what they offered to the world is 2,200, right? Something like that. And then it crashed. And now it is, I think, in that range only. I don't track it much, but still it is in that range only now. So that means that those people have calculated the fair value of that by considering many. So it's all about finding the fair market value, intrinsic value of the organization using fundamental analysis. And again, for that there are two types of analysis, qualitative and quantitative. Now these are jargons what I was talking about. Qualitative analysis. What does that mean? Quality. Simple. What is the quality of the product? What is the quality of the people? What is the quality of the asset? What is the quality of the management? That is qualitative analysis. Quantitative, simple, quantity, numbers. So see the numbers, see about the company, you will be able to do well. That if somebody tells me tomorrow, how is Tilak Mandir's PV Bhagwat Guntawnuk cell? I would say it's excellent because I have seen it first. The numbers I have seen, the kind of programs which they do. The people, the infrastructure. Like last time when I came to give a session here, prior to COVID, and now there is a change in this, I can see this. I appreciated the efforts of all these people. So quality is also there, quantity is also there. They are doing excellent sessions. Uday was telling in the beginning that they have now gone out of Tilak Mandir and taken this initiative to the world. That's an excellent step. That's why I can definitely tell anyone, it's a good place. Likewise, we should be able to analyze the businesses, whether it is really good or not. And that will give you lots of insights about things. Now, when I say qualitative analysis, the business model, the competitive advantage. Like when Reliance and Bharti, they are competing, two heavyweights. So we have to be very careful when such heavyweights are fighting. Jio and Bharti, right? Adani also now, correct. So these are the big players in the market. So we have to be very careful where to invest. And continuously, if you are investing, you have to be continuously tracking the numbers of both. What is happening? And then at some point of time, if required, you may be ready to exit. The problem is you fall in love with that stock. जाएगा जाएगा आएगा आने वाला वैसा जाएगा ऊपर जाएगा ऐसा करके you wait and then it goes down to an extent that never to return. मेरे पास है, I'm telling you, दो stocks ऐसे हैं. एक DSQ सॉफ्टवेयर करके है, ₹2 or something, and there is another company from Chennai. But then I have learned the lesson and now I exit, I book profit. Because the numbers continuously going down are not something which is. But then even at that point of time, there is a need to analyze. For example, when I was analyzing and I was trying to see, I think MRPL, Mangalore refineries. If you do the fundamental analysis, it will appear amongst one of the top companies. And it is a beautiful company, I am telling you. In between, there was some news that I think government is going to sell some stock of that. And the stock had gone up from some 60-70 rupees to 140. And now it has again being bashed like anything and is coming down to about 50-52 rupees. But somebody who is an excellent fundamental analysis person will know that it's a company which is worth looking at. It is worth holding. Again, these are my views. And these views are coming as a part of the speech. I am not working with MRPL. I don't have stock of MRPL. But I'm just trying to tell you something that MRPL, if you put all the standard parameters of business analysis, the fundamental analysis, you will realize that it will come as the top. Among 1600 companies, it will come in maybe the top 200, not even 200, top 100 companies. But investors are running away from it. It is our job to figure out why. If you get the answers, you can make the decision of whether to invest or not. My decision I have made, I am not going to tell it to you. But it is worth looking at, it something which I can tell you. So these are all the things which come as a part of the qualitative analysis. Now when it comes to quantitative analysis, you will need the friends of your chartered accountant friends. Because they can read these numbers, because they have made these numbers. Somebody who prepares these numbers can read those numbers, right? So balance sheet, income statement and cash flows, extremely good and extremely important to really see the growth of the company. Annual report will give you 1 year's performance. Along with that, they also have to publish quarterly financial statements, half-yearly financial statements. So you have to read both in conjunction. You can't read one separately and the other separately. You have to read both together to really come up how they are doing in terms of the progress. Now we will talk about some important ratios. Earnings per share. Now when it comes to earnings per share, I will just quickly run through them because time is less and this topic is vast. But still I'll try and take you through all the ratios which are important. I have tried to put down some ratios which are there. Earnings per share. So whatever the company has earned after all the whatever taxes, amortization expense, interest expense, whatever expenses are there, whatever earning is there, simply distributed across all the shares, earnings per shares. So it's a very simple formula. And you all can tell what is better, more is better or less is better. More is better. So earnings per share, extremely good thing and extremely important thing. Now here we will have to see one denominator, numerator. Numerator is what? Earning. Denominator is number of shares. Now it can happen sometime that the number of shares are so less that EPS seems to be very high. But that does not mean that that company is really doing well. Because that earnings can still be low, but number of shares being low, the EPS amount comes to be high, and then if you just apply the criteria of EPS, order by EPS descending, it appears that it will appear at the top, but then you will realize that the number of shares issued are very less, so it's not worth looking at. So it's important, don't look at these ratios in standalone mode, they have to be looked together. Price to earnings ratio. Now when you come up with EPS, just divide that by the market price divided by the EPS, it will give you the P by E ratio. Now you can see here, by including price along with EPS, what we have done is that we have figured out the sentiments of the people. Because what is price? The money that people are ready to shell out to buy one stock. Now, depending on the EPS, if the EPS is high, people should be ready to pay more for the stock because it is worth it. But whether they are really doing it or not, this ratio will tell you that, P by E. If P by E is less than 1, it is good or bad? Why? Because earnings per share is high, 250 hoga, and price is 100 rupees, 100 by 250. It's a good buy opportunity. But again, as I said, if you only look at this, use these parameters to find a funnel, which stocks to really look at, and then apply your mind. So come up with some filtered stocks and do analysis on them, and do it at regular intervals. Projected earnings growth. Again, these numbers, these are some examples and all. I can share it with Uday so that those who want can get these parameters. These are available on the net. Lots of information is there. So projected earnings growth will tell as to how the company is going to, or they are projecting themselves to grow. So that's something which, if they are saying that we will grow at so and so thing, so and so speed, then that is something worth really looking at. But at the same time, then look at past things, whether whatever they are claiming, whether they are achieving or not. My son keeps telling me that definitely is bar 92% leke aunga. Projected earnings growth. Finally, results come, that 72%. Because history मुझे बता रहा है कि वो नहीं है. He may be optimistic, super optimistic, but whether it is really converting into numbers or not, I don't know. So that is something which you have to really see. Only projected earnings growth may not mean anything. Free cash flow, very interesting number. Reserves is something, cash reserves. Now if you read the cash reserves of people, oh my God, huge amount of money is there. Huge amount of money is there with people. Deposits में रखा हुआ या bonds में रखा हुआ रहेगा. Look at Infosys numbers. You will go crazy. The Infosys numbers, the cash that they have, the reserves that they have, 6% interest on that, the amount that they will get will be more than the total employee cost they have. What does that mean?
They don't know what to do with that.
No, it means that even if they decide tomorrow that let's not work, पैर ऊपर करके बैठे सारे एम्प्लॉइज इंक्लूडिंग द एमडी ऑल, चलेगा, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. रिजर्व में से पैसा आ रहा है, सैलरी जा रहा है, कंपनी उधर कस्टमर बोम मार रहा है, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. 20 साल तक चलेगा ऐसा, कभी खत्म नहीं होगा ये साइकिल, कभी खत्म नहीं होगा ना. बिकॉज फिर भी उनका रिजर्व बढ़ते ही जाएगा. 5,000 करोड़ अगर मेरा एक्सपेंस है, 50-50 लाख का सैलरी पकड़ के सबका, और मुझे इंटरेस्ट में से पैसा ही आ रहा है 8,000 करोड़, मैं 5,000 करोड़ 3,000 करोड़ मेरे रिजर्व में और जाएगा उसके अंदर, कभी खत्म नहीं होगा ये. सोचो, रिजर्व्स देखो, रिजर्व्स, इंडियन ऑयल कॉर्पोरेशन, अरे इतना पैसा है इंडियन ऑयल को, बट नोबडी इज लुकिंग एट देम. गवर्नमेंट है, इसके लिए नोबडी इज लुकिंग एट देम. पेट्रोल भरने के लिए जाता है, कौन सा पेट्रोल पंप है? इंडियन ऑयल. तेरे पास शेयर है? नहीं. क्यों नहीं है? पता नहीं. डिविडेंड डील कितना है? जबरदस्त है. हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू हैव IOC विद यू? Still people do not hold those. Ready available information है. विजय स्टोरची पुरणपोळी चांगली असते माहिती आहे, तरी चॅम्पियन कडनं घ्यायची. हां पॅकेजिंग, जस्ट बिकॉज साठेंचे आहे म्हणून. माझं काय, आय डोंट होल्ड एनिथिंग इन साठे, completely independent that Sathe. And that Puranpoli is also not supplied by me. But still, these IOCs, there, many people are, many stocks are there like that. But nobody is investing, and that is where the problem lies. Exactly, see. So they have an excellent qualitative analysis, and she likes that. Goes there, Kashat madam. Whereas if you go to other places, I say, I couldn't, तिकडे असेल बघा, माहित नाही. Nobody will buy. As simple as that. She is right, correct. So that is what about Paytm. Why the stock rose? Because Vijay Shekhar Sharma made it sure that he speaks at so many events. If your face is seen, it is valued. As simple as that. Face value. That is what is called as face value. Shares also have a face value. Correct. And we give that worth, which is called market value. So that face value goes to that market value only when the face is worth seeing, as madam said. Okay, but even if that is the case, make sure that you invest. This is again a beautiful ratio to really see. I see this price to book value ratio. What is a book value? Book value is something. अगर मैं पूरा bankrupt हो गया, कंपनी पूरा बंद करने का टाइम आ गया, तो whatever they sell, assets उनके सारे sell करके liabilities निकल जाएंगे, उसके बाद में जो रहेगा वो है आपका book value. Again, chartered accountants only make the book value because they are experts in that. But if the book value is high, whereas the price is not that high, it means it is Vijay Stores. It is Vijay Stores. Remember this thing. It is Vijay Stores. It's worth looking at. Still, people अभी तक किसी का ध्यान नहीं गया है. I always used to give example. Now we are little older here, but youngsters के सामने I used to give example. 10th standard में सब साथ में स्कूल का यूनिफॉर्म है, पता नहीं चल रहा है. बाजू में एक लड़की बैठी है, दिखने में सिंपल है, एकदम सिंपल यूनिफॉर्म में आती है, ब्रिलियंट है, लेकिन पता नहीं चल रहा है कैसे आगे होगी उसका. एक इंटेलिजेंट बंदा है, उसकी तरफ देखता है, भले सिंपल है, और बाकी सब लोग किसके पीछे जा रहे हैं? लाइक मैडम सेड, जो थोड़ा बन ठन के आती है, गाड़ी में से उतरती है, उसके पीछे सारे जा रहे हैं कहाँ जाना है करके. बट एक बंदा इंटरेस्टिंग इंटेलिजेंट है जो जाता है इसके पास, और ये जो बहुत सिंपल घर से आती है, सिंपल लड़की है, लेकिन इंटेलिजेंट है, दिखने में सावली सी है लेकिन हंसती अच्छी है, उसको वो पटा लेता है. कुछ साल के बाद में शादी हो जाता है, पैसा दोनों के पास अच्छा आता है, इंटेलिजेंट है, नौकरी अच्छा मिलता है, अफोर्ड कर पाती है, ब्यूटी पार्लर में जाना चालू कर दिया है, एंड सडनली शी बिकम्स प्रियंका चोपड़ा. एंड व्हेन द अदर पर्सन जिसके साथ शादी किया था, वो जब मिलता है, यार तेरी बीवी प्रियंका चोपड़ा, साला अपने क्लास में थी ना. हाँ, फिर मैंने तभी देख लिया था उसको, उसका क्या पोटेंशियल हो सकता है. नॉलेज है ना. शी विल अर्न वेल, शी अर्न्स वेल, शी विल बी एबल टू डू ऑल ब्यूटी पार्लर्स इन द वर्ल्ड, और अच्छी दिखेगी वो, और अच्छा होगा उसका. दैट इज एग्जैक्टली व्हाट हैपेंस विद द बुक वैल्यू. बुक वैल्यू इज द वर्थ ऑफ दैट कंपनी, एंड वो रेडीली निकाल के देते हैं एक्सपर्ट्स, सीएस. लेकिन हम बैठे इधर म्हणतात ना कर्म दरिद्री जसे, आपण बघत नाही त्याच्याकडे. बुक व्हॅल्यू वी डोंट अंडरस्टँड. व्हॉट इज बुक व्हॅल्यू वी डोंट अंडरस्टँड. ओनली थिंग समबडी सेलिंग मी, अरे हा घे, हा स्टॉक चांगला आहे, ओके, त्याने मला सांगितलं, एकदम लहानपणचा माझा जिगरी दोस्त आहे, आय विल बाय. व्हॉट इज अ जिगरी दोस्त गोइंग टू डू? Whereas somebody who is not your jigri dost, he is a chartered accountant, he has found the book value and he is telling you worth, buy kar, look at it. Other people have not yet looked at it. It has the potential to grow into huge. There are, I am telling you, because I do fundamental analysis, I am telling you there are many companies like that. Nobody has looked at those. And I can guarantee you that they can give you 500% returns in years to come. मैं इन्वेस्ट करने वाला हूँ, आपका मुझे पता नहीं. I am not going to disclose the names because I want Priyanka Chopra. आपको ये मैं दे रहा हूँ उसका knowledge. You can also find Priyanka Chopras in the 1600 companies which are there. Definitely है, definitely, because people have that feeling. Sir, example जो सारे आते हैं वो 82s वाले आते हैं. 1982 में विप्रो ऐसा था, अभी 600 करोड़ हुआ, अभी विप्रो कुछ बढ़ नहीं रहा है. But there are still companies, I am telling you, even now, there are companies which are not looked at. Nobody looks at those companies. Small caps, mid caps है अभी भी. Potential to grow into that big league. You should have the lens, the tools, the ability to look at those and find out these things. So again, return on equity, extremely good. If the equity is less, returns are more, ROE is more. If the ROE is more, that company is still worth looking at because the returns on the equity are high. So these are parameters here. Dividend payout ratio. This is what I was telling. कंजूस कंपनी है कि दिलदार कंपनी है. डिविडेंड यील्ड ज़्यादा है, डिविडेंड ज़्यादा दे रहा है, डिस्ट्रीब्यूट ज़्यादा कर रहा है, प्राइस कम है, कीप बाइंग बिकॉज दीज आर योर पिलर्स. Even in stocks, when the market is not rising, if the dividend yield is good, the dividend payout ratio is good, IOC, extremely good company, I'm telling you again. They are paying so much dividend. And another good part you must understand is, since it is government promoted, government जब जब पैसा लगेगा तब तक वो उसमें से उसको it's a cow which is there in the cow shed of government. जब जब उनको मिल्क लगेगा तब उसको मिल्क करके निकाल के लेके आएंगे. बट बिकॉज हम लोग बाजू में बैठे हैं वो काऊ के एज छोटे इन्वेस्टर्स, थोड़ा दूध हमको भी मिलेगा. So remember, these things are extremely important. The more the promoters take, government owns it, the stocks may not rise because the big stalwarts, the big players, they are not looking at these things. है, ये बढ़ने वाला नहीं है. कभी भी आप कोई भी स्टॉक देखो, ONGC देखो, BPCL देखो, उनका एक रेंज है. स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया, they will go up to a range. They will not become like TCS, Infosys, Reliance, 2000, 3000. नीचे है बहुत. But Indian Oil Corporation is in competition with Reliance, equally good. Reliance पहुंचा है किधर 2500, 600 पे. ये किधर पड़ा है बेचारा 110 कुछ 100, right? 67. See. See, that is what I'm thinking. There are many good, but people are still not buying. So that's what the whole thing is. Price to sales ratio, again. So there are many ratios are there. I will run quickly through this. Dividend yield again is something which is very dependent on the dividend that is being given. Debt to equity, very important. It's very simple. The company wants to grow, so they can either come up with some equity or they can ask for loan from other companies. So that is debt. So if the debt is more than the equity, then it is not something which is that good. But if the debt is less, the debt-free companies are always good, because they are not looking at any other companies to give loans to them for growing. They are using their own money to grow. So debt to equity is extremely important from the point of view of growing. So the lesser the debt, the better the company. Now again, these are some more things, so I don't want to cover these things. I'll give it to Dhruv, so that those who want, he can share it with all of you. Now we coming to the end of the presentation. So what are the challenges in fundamental analysis? The challenges is there are information gaps in statements. You should be able to find where the gaps are. And that is a knack that you have to develop by learning and reading these things. As I said, there is paid research by institutional investors. I am not saying that it is bad. I am only saying that the paid research has to be looked at by you from an objective angle, because those are paying them from the point of view of ensuring that that research benefits that company. And that's why it is important. Now, changing use of ratios in bullish and bearish trends. Whenever the trend is bullish, people are putting money in the hot sector because research is being done in the hot sectors. Now, everybody is running after those. There is no need to do like that. Whenever the trend is bullish, whenever the trend is bearish, we should be very objective in looking at this. Sukha dukhe samay krutva labha labho jaya jayo. Sukh ho ya dukh ho, दोनों में हम same रहेंगे. Bullish हो, bearish हो. Bullish means sukha, bearish means dukh. Samay krutva, same. कुछ भी होने दो. I will be making profit in both. That's what your attitude should be, and that's why it is very important. Now that red one I read yesterday and I liked it, so I am sharing it. In a rush to make money, rationality is the first casualty. So that is, it happens always that we lose our rationality and we become fools and prey to some easy hot sector catch-ups, I would say. So as I said, hot sector is something where the research really goes, and then the rational analysis goes ignored or unread. Today what we are doing here is a rational analysis of how the stocks are. Again, I am not at all recommending buy this, buy that, nothing. We are just doing a rational analysis. We are just discussing with each other what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is not right. So make sure that the rational analysis also is read. It's extremely important. Emails free. Normally I make it a point to listen to all the channels, because though I have my own inclination in terms of my political thinking, views expressed by other channels also equally important, because they have a view. That's the first thing that we have to accept. I may change, I may not change, but it's important that you should be able to read and understand and know these things. As I said in the end, you pay a doctor not to tell you that you feel good, but to give you their professional and truthful opinion of your condition. That is exactly what you should do when you are going to an analyst or trying to take advice from anyone. And pay for it, because then only things will be rational and practical. Okay? So, once again, thank you to Dhruva, Uday, for giving me this opportunity. आणि तुम्ही सगळ्यांनी सांभाळून घेतल्याबद्दल थँक्यू सो मच.
Actually, we're on the top of the hour. Any one question probably we can take. Okay. Representative of all the investors.
Manoj, I know, last time also I heard, you have been a very strong advocate of holding PSU stock for the reasons you told. The only question in my mind is that possibly with that psychology, everybody went for a LIC stock. Now, the life insurance sector as such, people have their own, private sector companies are not doing that bad, or even stock prices. So in that sense, what is possibly your analysis tells you about LIC as a stock and maybe that sector? Because you may have some reservation talking about LIC as such.
So very valid question. When I read about the LIC thing, okay, interestingly, in my house, my wife happens to be an insurance advisor. So मेरे सामने it was a double whammy, double impact for me. But still, I gathered the courage of being a rational and good investor and analyst. And in fact, my brother-in-law is here, okay, sitting next to Dere sir. He is well aware that my wife is an LIC agent and how she is. So my view on that was, do not invest in LIC. That point of time I'm talking about, do not invest. Because it was not something that was worth. In fact, the whole idea of insurance companies coming into the market itself, I find it very funny. Because why do they need money in the first place? They are anyway making a lot of money. And the whole premise, why people go to the market? The people go to the market to raise capital. Why capital is required? For expansion and other things. Capital market is required for someone who is trying to expand and do something new, right? Now these insurance companies, they come under the purview of IRDA. They cannot sell chaklis and chivdas tomorrow, right? They have to sell only LIC policies. That also there is a restriction in terms of what they can sell, how they can sell, whom they can sell. Everything is regulated. Now in that case, plus they have a competition. HDFC Life, SBI Life. I'm sure all of you will have 9-10 different policies. एक SBI में अकाउंट था तो सामने वो कस्टमर केयर रिप्रेजेंटेटिव बोला कि आप ले लो ना, एक ले लो करके ले लिया. मेरा दोस्त था, मेरा ब्रदर इन लॉ था, मेरी वाइफ थी, सबके लिए ले लिया. पॉलिसीज जम के रहेंगे. So if they are going to anyway sell, why do they need to go to the market? That is my first question. But in case of LIC also, the valuation, still, now people have decided to come to the market. HDFC Life is there, SBI Life is there, LIC is there now in the... Because one of the reasons which government feels is that they have control then. Because once they go public, then public will have control and there will be transparency in the way they operate. That could be one view which, because of which they have come public. But in case of LIC, still the valuation is on the higher side, I would say. Now, it will be very interesting to see when the stock really comes into comparison with other stocks like SBI Life and HDFC Life. But if you compare with the peers, my suggestion to you who really want to invest in LIC, amongst all the insurance companies, LIC is still a good buy, even at this level. Because if you compare with the peers in part of the fundamental analysis, you will find that it is much better placed as compared to the other companies. In terms of the reach that they have, in terms of the seniority, in terms of the operations which they have, in terms of the staff which they have, in terms of the model in which they sell. And in spite of having very, very tough competition from private players, for the last maybe 5-6 years, their market share is coming down, I understand. But still, they are somewhere at 70% and above. So I would suggest that it is still a good buy from a fundamental analysis perspective. But from a sane investor's perspective, I don't still feel the need of investing in any of the insurance stocks. That's again my opinion.
Thank you, Manoj. I'll request Sujit to give a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Sathe. Thank you very much for the wonderful insight. I am definitely going to look at Priyanka Chopra or for the mother Deepika Padukone also. Two is better definitely than one. And I hope it was a different session altogether. We've never had such kind of session. And really thank you, Mr. Sathe, once again for coming here and also liking what P.V. Bhagwat has been doing lately also and off late also. So I request all of you to please, so this will be the session. We'll have one more session, group. Okay, 6th of November. So this is the last session for October. We'll have sessions for November going ahead. We are planning to have a big session, Professor Limay memorable lecture, where we are most likely to invite Mr. Saurabh Mukherjee of Marcellus, and almost 90% is being frozen. And once again, very happy Diwali to all of you, and thank you once again for coming here. We will now end the session with Pasayadan.
वाक्यज्ञ तोषावे दोषोनी मज द्यावे असाय दान हे जे खळाची व्यंकटी सांडो तया सत्कर्मी रती वाढो भूता परस्परे जडो मैत्र जीवांचे दुरितांचे तिमिर जाओ विश्वस्वधर्म सूर्ये पाहो जो जे वांछिल तो ते लाभो प्राणी जात वर्षत सकळ मंडळी ईश्वर निष्ठांची मांदियाळी अनवरत भूमंडळी भेटतो तिया भूता चला कल्पतरूंचे आरव चेतना चिंतामणीचे गाव बोलिते जे अर्णव पियुषांचे चंद्रमे जे अलांछन मार्तंड जे तापहीन ते सर्वाही सदा सज्जन सोय रे होतो किंबहुना सर्व सुखी पूर्ण होऊनी तिन्ही लोकी भजिजो आदि पुरुखी अखंडित आणि ग्रंथोपजीविये विशेषी लोकीये दृष्टादृष्ट विजये होवा वेजी येथ म्हणे श्री विश्वेश्वराओ हा होईल दान पसाओ येणेवरे ज्ञान देवो सुखिया झाला सुखिया झाला सुखिया झाला ओम शांती.